No, I haven't met y'all before.
Oh, yeah, you haven't.
I
Okay.
think having a lot of new faces. I've not met y'all either.
All right. Well, nice to meet y'all.
I'm Dr. Shaw. I met Mom, I think, a couple times.
Okay.
I'm Hannah. I'm from social work.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a new face.
All them faces.
Okay. Well, how y'all doing?
Pretty good.
It's the first time we've had a big group like this at night. What's the occasion?
I'm kind of new to all this. I just came on shift. I was
Okay.
kind of wondering, like, kind of what your thoughts are. And
What my thoughts are?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, one of my thoughts is the thing that I warned against before we agreed to install the tube is kind of coming to pass, where he's not gaining weight. Again, he's actually losing weight.
Okay.
Second, he's now regressing to the point where he doesn't want to eat from the bottle at all.
Okay.
He's almost refusing the bottle. He cries when you try to feed him, even when it's feeding time.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are all things that are being caused by the thing that's supposed to be helping him. Okay, so that's where I'm at here, and we talked about that. Dr. Shu, do what?
Are you videotaping?
Yes.
I don't think that's allowed.
Yeah, it's allowed. Yeah, it's not illegal.
Yeah. Anyone who's uncomfortable can use it.
Was there some reason that you wouldn't want me to videotape?
I'm just wondering as to why you're holding us on like that.
Okay, that's why.
You're required to tell us that you're videotaping us. So we're required to.
Well, now you know.
So you're concerned that the tube is kind of making things worse, and that you're requesting.
I'm not concerned with it. Well, I mean, I guess I am concerned with it, but it's. I mean, you can't argue with it's a fact, really. You know, and to argue with that it's ineffective now, and it's ineffective to the point where it's causing a problem. You know.
Okay.
I mean, would you agree or disagree on that? Based on all the facts and the numbers that you have written down and keeping score with, you can't deny that he is regressing. He's not eating as much. I've got written down here the feeds that he's taken by mouth. He's taken less by mouth than he was taking before he came here. And he's still losing weight, even though he's getting it through the tube. The tube is not helping him.
Yeah.
Just like I said, it wouldn't help him.
Sure. So, I haven't been here for any of these others.
Right, you haven't.
Okay, we're meeting for the first time.
Me and Dr. Shu had that discussion the other day.
I have been looking at the chart.
Okay.
I've been here every night for the last couple
Okay,
days.
okay.
So I do know what's been going on. I've
All
been
right.
following the weights and all that.
Okay.
And I haven't seen him feed. Okay, so
Okay.
I can't comment on that.
Okay.
But I can tell you that I see kids that have trouble gaining weight all the time.
Right.
This is not something that's unusual. This is something that we see very, very frequently.
That's true.
And this is how we address it very frequently. And the thought behind that is you're correct in that sometimes an NG tube can make it more uncomfortable to feed. Okay? And so sometimes we do see that kids take a day or two to get used to it because there is that little tickle in the back of the throat.
Well, it's more than that. I mean,
Sure.
it's more than that. I mean,
it's a little harder to breathe through it.
Yeah.
You get congested. It's a little.
I mean, the
harder.
University of Michigan did a research on NG tubes that states that they're not even supposed to be used unless there's
Unless, right?
unless
Yeah.
there is a risk of aspiration, which he does not have.
Okay. Or if they're unable to gain weight by themselves, right?
Due to a medical condition, which he does not have either.
Okay. So kind of the way that we're looking at this is some way or another he needs to gain weight, right?
That's correct.
And that's just a reality of life.
This is
right?
true.
He doesn't gain weight, he won't develop properly, he'll start having problems with other organs.
Yeah.
Okay? And so fundamentally, we need to find a way to make him gain weight. Okay?
Okay.
And that's kind of the priority right now is making sure he can gain weight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, we did put the tube in, and we gave him all the stuff that y'all wanted, and he isn't gaining. He actually lost some.
So
And
it's extremely, extremely common that for the first 2 or 3 days we don't actually see significant weight gain. Okay.
But what about weight loss?
So 25 grams doesn't mean anything, okay? And the reason I say that is because from one scale to one scale, if he grouped, if he peed, like any of that stuff is going to cause changes about 50 grams plus or minus, okay? And so the loss of 25 grams isn't really a loss as much as it is just not a gain, okay? Because I see this, and this is why we trend weights for multiple days.
So the same thing could have been said for the gains and losses that he had in the first 2 days that he was here.
You're correct.
But those were used for an argument for the NG tube, and now you're using those same arguments for.
And this is why we do trends, right? This is why it takes a couple days before we find out, is this consistent weight gain or was this a fluke measurement, okay? And that's why we don't just do one weight, say, okay, you're gaining weight, go home. It's why we say, okay, we can trend it, and you're right, sometimes we interpret things differently, and that's true, okay? And the fact that, it had gone up is, okay, cool, it looks like it's going up, let's see what happens tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
The next day we find out, oh, it went a little bit down, maybe it's not actually going up, it's stable.
But what about the fact that, the NG tube should be reserved for medical type problems. Yeah. Does he have anything wrong with him medically other than the fact that he doesn't have any weight? Other than the fact that he's underweight?
That is a medical problem.
Caused by the tube. That's caused by the tube.
It happened before and after the tube, right? There was a period in between.
Okay. Now, he's only been alive now for 30 days, roughly. Yeah. Okay. The first 2 weeks of his life, he was on that tube. Sure. Okay. The second 2 weeks, we'll just do it that way. The second 2 weeks, he was adjusting to being in a new home, sure, and then also having to learn how to eat, which he did not develop in the hospital while he had the tube, which is necessary for a infant who comes directly out of the womb. It's very important for them to learn that in the first, or they may not develop it at all. Okay, so there's that. So then he spends all this time in the hospital on a tube, doesn't learn how to eat, associates, and does the same thing that he's doing now, where he doesn't want to eat. Now he doesn't even want the bottle at all. He eats what I told you earlier, 20 mLs. That's the least I've seen him eat in weeks. Okay? The last time I saw him eat like this, you want to know where it was? Okay. All right. So there's that. Then we take him to another doctor who suggests that we put him on rice cereal.
Sure.
Good idea, bad idea?
Rice cereal is something that adds calories to a feed. Okay.
Well, it's funny because some of your other constituents say that it doesn't.
So it adds calories. Okay.
No, they say that it specifically doesn't add calories. I've had other people come in and say that it does not add calories. Whether it does or not, okay. How many calories would it add?
And honestly, I don't know the math of how many. Okay.
Well, if you've got a formula that adds 20 calories and then you add more of the 20 calorie formula, do you now have 40 calories or just 20 more calories?
The actual formula doesn't matter. If you mix in the powder, you increase the concentration.
Right. Okay. So either way, what the end result of that was he got constipated.
True.
Because for about 2 or 3 days before he came here, he wouldn't even defecate. And then you saw that when he was here, he didn't defecate for a period of time. Is a baby going to eat well if they're constipated?
It can be more uncomfortable to eat, but yeah, typically babies that are constipated still can eat.
Maybe. If it's to the point where...
I can only tell you the experience that I've had with most of my patients, okay? I know every case is a little bit different, and like I said...
If you've already got a baby who's got a problem or an oral aversion already,
sure,
and now he's got more of an oral aversion because now you're putting rice cereal in a bottle, making it more difficult to suck through, and he's constipated, and he was stuffed up, had congestion going on. These are all things that can contribute to a baby not wanting to eat, right?
Yeah.
So now he's not constipated. Mm-hmm. Congestion is clearing up. Mm-hmm. This morning he did eat a whole bottle for me. Mm-hmm. And he was eating that way for me before he got the tube in. Yeah. But slowly, rather rapidly actually, he has regressed. Yeah. So it's important for him to, regardless of whether he's getting mLs in a day, it's the calorie intake and him wanting to eat that's important, or he's not going to be able to develop that. And that was what I was trying to stress to you the other day when we had this conversation. That's what my concern was. Yeah. Not that y'all are trying to do whatever. Okay, it's the fact that he's not learning and he's gonna regress.
Okay.
And this has happened.
So I hear what you're saying, and I can see that you've seen that over the course of today. And I'm not saying that I'm not disbelieving you in any way, because it happens. I know it happens. Okay. In my experience in similar cases, okay, there's a couple reasons that you can start having slightly decreased intake over the first day or two. Okay. One of them is the NG tube itself, like you said. Okay, it can be a little bit uncomfortable, and this is something you've already recognized, right? And this is kind of the big thing that you're concerned about, and I totally understand that. The second thing is if we've been gavaging feeds, his stomach is getting a lot more full than it used to, right? Because he's getting volumes that he wasn't before, and so he's not going to be as hungry all the time, just because we're like overfeeding him essentially, so that he can
And there, right there, what you just said is the problem. Okay.
Temporary, yeah.
Not temporary. Not for him in his situation, because when he was born, he did not learn the feeding skills that he naturally should.
Okay. So, I mean, that's why we have speech therapy combined. They say he shows appropriate hunger cues and has a good coordination.
He does now, but slowly those are going to disappear if he depends on the tube. And how far are we going to go? Are we going to go with 2 NG tubes and then a Mickey button after that because he's not eating? Is that where we're headed next?
So
because the nurse and other people have already stated that, well, maybe we'll just NG all the feed. Oh, that's great, right? That's moving forward, or that's moving backwards?
So usually, as kids gain more weight, because he's a pretty decent bit below his ideal weight right now, right? Okay. Yeah. And you know, babies for the first 2-3 months of life, their exercise is straight up, right? That's what they do. That's their exercise. That's like a majority of their energy expenditure.
Right.
And so feeding is a big deal for him. And because of the fact that he's so underweight, he doesn't have the muscular reserve that he needs in order to be able to not only take what he would normally be able to take if he wasn't underweight, but also to take those additional calories.
Why is that?
Right? So, I mean, it's like if you eat your normal diet, right? And then I ask you to eat 50% more with every single meal, right? Because I want you to gain weight. That's just, it's a little bit more difficult, right? It's a lot more work for you to do.
I would believe that. I would line up with that 100% if I haven't already been through this with another facility where he was actually getting more than he's getting now.
Okay.
If that wasn't the case, I would say, yes, you're correct. But in this case, you're incorrect because he's already been there.
So here's what we normally do, okay? Normally, we find a caloric goal based on the weight of the patient. We find a way to get them that number of calories, and then we track for 2 or 3 days, looking at weights twice a day so we can see a trend rather than just a day-to-day change, and see what happens overall over those days. And I would tell you that most of the time, we do see fluctuations going up and down, but that overall we see an upward trend.
Right, I agree with that.
And so that's what we would normally be doing in the hospital. That's what we've been doing. I guess my question for you is, what are your thoughts on what we should be doing differently?
I think it's behavioral, to be honest. I think it's behavioral, caused by the tube, caused by him not eating regularly, not wanting to eat.
Okay.
You know, having an aversion to wanting to eat, because it's been obvious that that's what the problem has been. Well, my recommendation is to probably increase the calories to a point where eating doesn't make him sick, you know, where he can absorb that and not hurt him, you know, and then feed him at, you know, probably hour intervals.
So that's going to be a lot more exercise.
Hold on. And then let him eat what he wants to eat.
Okay.
And then if he doesn't want to eat, if he's tired of eating, lay him down. He goes back to sleep, and then wake him up to eat again. If he takes a couple of sucks, just continuously reinforce him wanting to eat. And then eventually he should want to eat on his own.
Well, before the tube, when we first got here, and we just upped the calorie intake and cut out the rice cereal, he was on an upward trend. And you know, he was gaining weight, you know, very very slightly, but you know, he was gaining weight. but, and then, you know, with the tube, and now he's lost weight. And I don't feel like it's helped him.
With me, my concern right now is not with the fact that he's lost weight. It's the fact that he's wanting to eat less. You know, he's less wanting to orally take food in. That's my concern, not necessarily that he's weighing less, because that is a concern, yes, but he's not wanting.
The biggest concern.
That is a big concern, but you can cause.
My point is that, you know, before, you know, we just upped the calories, and, you know, he was on an upward trend.
That's true.
You know, and that's what you wanted. That's what you guys wanted, was him to be on an upward trend, and that's what he was doing on his own with just the extra calories.
It is true. I mean, he weighed, what did he weigh? 33 something, 3.3 when he came in, and then the next day, on him eating on his own, it was 3.4, and then got up to 3.
Naked weights?
The what? Yeah, they were all naked weights.
There was one where it wasn't, but I mean, even
they reweighed him naked, and it was, and it actually increased the weight that he was. Just like today, she weighed him the same with the diaper. She did the same thing that she did before, and then she removed the diaper, and he actually weighed more. So that weight was skewed, and
he weighed more after removing the diaper.
After removing the diaper, she zeroed the scale. She did the same thing today. Okay, I know you're talking about Madeline, because she's the one that weighed him. Okay, in that way. The first day, she did that, but she put the diaper on the scale, zeroed the scale, put the diaper on the baby, put the baby on the scale. He weighed what he weighed. Okay, she did the same thing today. And then I told her, I said, hey, they don't weigh him like that. They weigh him naked. She goes, oh, okay. So then she re-weighed him, and he weighed more. So...
By how much? Like, was this a significant difference, or was it like 10 or 15?
It was one number. You know, it was...
Okay, so that's what the margin of error is.
Okay, yeah. So, but by that does kind of validate the original weight.
So the weights are going to be off by 5 or 10 grams every time we weigh.
Okay.
Okay. I can weigh him exactly the same way 4 times.
So let's assume that they're all down.
Okay.
That they're all down. You know, 0.5. You know, then it's still an even trend.
But we're not looking for 0.5 grams, right? We're looking for a weight gain of consistently 50 to 100 grams per day.
Right, but either way, he's not getting that. He didn't get it today.
And so it takes a day or two to start gaining weight. It takes a while for your body to really absorb the calories and to start processing those into actual muscle, fat, tissue. And so it doesn't just immediately happen, because your body needs time to process what you're actually taking in.
Okay, but it also makes it easier for him to eat, makes it easier for any baby to eat, and less stressful if, first of all, they don't have an oral aversion. So that's going to be less stressful. They're going to burn less calories. And because, first of all, he doesn't really even know how to eat. He doesn't associate, you know, for, like I said, the first 2 weeks of his life, he'd never associated eating out of a bottle with I'm hungry. Right? He never put those two things together because he didn't have to. Right? So he was trained to not even know. So now you stick a bottle in his face and he's like, what's this? What do I do with this? Right? That's not how I get full. He doesn't ever connect, you know, that this bottle is to make that feeling in your stomach go away. Because he doesn't know that. So now you've got that on top of he's sick. He's still healing from, or at that time was still healing from a pneumothorax and all this other stuff that was going on, still healing from that. So all of those things come into play. Then, a couple of weeks down the road, okay, still congested. He gets around his brothers who are sick, and he gets congested. He gets a little slight bug there probably, which he's just now getting over, okay. Then, rice cereal comes along and, you know, to save the day, and constipates him. How many of these things, how many of these variables would it take to cause this? Only one of those variables would probably do it. But he had all of those. Okay?
I'm not going to disagree with you that he's had a really tough run for the most
Okay,
of his life.
so now we're thinking that we can solve a problem with the very thing that probably caused the problem. One of the problems.
Yeah, I I see where you're coming from.
And I know that you guys care about children, man. I know y'all do.
Yeah.
Okay?
And to be honest, it would not be a worthwhile job if it wasn't that I didn't like it. It's
I
not
know
financially
that. I know
worth it
y'all
to do
do,
that.
but y'all gotta see, man, that this is not the way. Whatever it is, this is not the way.
Okay, what do you
It's
want
not
to
just what I told you. We need to up his calories.
do? So you want to concentrate his formula?
We want to maybe concentrate it some more to a
Okay.
tolerable level.
Okay.
And then, we're probably going to have to, focus on making his feed times more pleasurable, however enjoyable, and so that he can associate, because it's not just food that they get from feed times. Dr. What was his name? He touched on that the other day. They also get love from those times, because that's when they bond.
Sure.
Okay, he didn't get any of that in the first days of his life.
Yeah.
So all of these things he's got to learn how to do. How is he going to learn how to do that? Any of that, if he's not,
And to be honest, that's something that we consider very highly, which is why we get a specialized speech therapist involved
Okay.
to work with him every day. Because we do see that, and
Yeah.
you're not wrong in that oral aversion is a big issue that
Right.
we need to make sure doesn't happen. Okay?
Honestly, from the standpoint of if he had anything, if his electrolytes were down, if his fluids were down, if any of these tests, hundreds of tests that have been run on him have come back with something that, we're even thinking that something's wrong with his brain, so we give, everything's good there. Okay, nothing's wrong with him that would cause him to not want to eat, right? He doesn't have anything physically. You can't find nothing. We've scanned him with every piece of equipment known to man, and we can't find anything wrong with this child.
If I had to wager a guess, I would say it's been a very long time since he's been full on a regular basis, which is why he's not wanting to eat it.
Probably.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because
For giving him calories.
he doesn't know. First of all, he didn't even know how to eat or why to eat, so he was trying to learn that, and then he got things changed up on him by another physician. Okay, changed his diet 2 or 3 times in the span of 2 weeks. You can't do that.
So
And
I'm
then
going to be honest with you. That's usually weight gain is one of those things that there's a million different ways to do it.
right.
And so I think that I wasn't there for any of those other discussions.
Of course not.
But there's at least 5 or 6 different ways that I personally have tried. And so it's not unreasonable to try multiple different things after a couple of days. Okay, 3 days that didn't work.
No, I get that.
So that's not unreasonable. Okay.
I get that.
In
I get that.
retrospect, we
I
can
get
say,
that. Right.
Oh, that didn't work.
That didn't work. So
But
then it's like,
in
hey.
the pediatrician's experience, they may have
I've just
found
heard too many people, too many different people that didn't know, because I ask people questions in a different way,
Sure.
in different settings to see what they're going to say, and if all of them say the same thing, because they don't know they're answering the same question,
Sure.
then you can't deny, okay, that's a problem. And if if you've got a group of 5 doctors, and 3 of them say, I wouldn't do that,
Sure.
and 2 of them are like, I might do it, is kind of what you're saying,
So-
I'd try it, and then maybe
Yeah,
it didn't.
I would try. There's different things
Exactly.
I would try.
Right.
But I'm not going to tell you that that there's necessarily a wrong way to do it.
Well, here's
Okay?
my look at
I wasn't there, and I don't know the experiences of the other.
here's my viewpoint on it. Okay, it's going to take longer. It's going to take longer to address the behavioral part of it. That is always going to take longer. It would be easier.
So that's not true.
It may not be true.
Empirically.
Hopefully it's not true in this case. But it's almost guaranteed that this will progress if we follow this course of action.
That's also not true.
There's a lot of...
with hundreds of kids. Okay, we do this in the hospital
Yeah.
on a pretty regular basis. I can tell you that most of the time, when we do an NG tube on a kid his age, that ends up gaining weight once we get the right calories down. After they gain a certain amount of weight, they're able to have more energy to take more by mouth, and we move towards getting rid of it.
Did the child start out with the NG tube?
Most of the kids in the NICU we do this for, and the NICU kids all start out with an NG tube.
Not every child is fits
I
into a
agree.
box.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
What I'm
And
telling you is that I have the experience of seeing multiple kids,
And
and
yet-
most of the time,
Yeah.
you're right, in that
Yeah.
there are exceptions.
Yeah.
Okay? But most of the time, the NG tube is used to gain weight.
Yeah.
Once that weight
I get
starts
that.
gaining,
I
you
get
gain
that.
more energy,
I totally
you
get that.
better-
And some kids, it probably helps them greatly. Maybe they were born with some kind of defect or something,
Even kids
or,
without any defect,
you know,
like you said, kids
whatever
without any
reason,
other medical problems,
maybe premature.
even if they're not premature.
However, okay, some kids don't fit into a box, you know, into that box, you know.
And what I'm saying is the plan that we put in place for him
Yeah,
is the plan that we put in place for almost every
Mhm.
kid that has this problem.
yeah,
So we're not doing anything that is kind of off the book or anything.
yeah.
Most of the time, this is what happens.
Mhm.
And you are correct in that initially the NG tube can make them not want to feed as much. Okay? And they won't necessarily take as big volumes because, like I said, they're getting more full for the first time in a very long time. And so they're getting used to this increased amount of food.
And then the less and less amount that they have to
So your stomach adapts, but it takes some time for your stomach to adapt as well. And so your stomach,
I understand
and this
that.
is for adults too.
Yeah.
People that get lap bands.
And who
they
are you?
kinda-
I'm social worker.
Oh, okay, another social. Okay,
So
Okay, but we work in the ER.
I got you.
We're
Okay.
responding down there too.
okay.
So even adults, right? Adults will say, "Oh, I'm going to get a lap band because I don't eat as much," right?
Mhm.
And they'll tie off a part of their stomach.
Aaron.
Nice to meet you. Well,
To like contract that part of the stomach, right? And what you notice that happens with adults with lap bands is initially they don't eat as much. Right?
Yeah, I understand all that.
Over
The
time, that
expansion
lap
of the
band
stomach
extends,
and
right?
yeah,
And
I understand
you go
that.
Back to where they started.
Right.
Stomachs work that way in general.
I get that. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is he's not having to work as hard to eat and get full, and he's not associating in his mind, or his brain is not associating that I'm getting full because I'm eating from the bottle. He's associating. He's going back to the
That's
place.
also not true. And that's only going to be the case if we stop allowing him to feed altogether. That's why we still allow him.
He's already shown that that's what's happening. We just had this conversation, and you agreed that it's true.
I agree.
We can run the tape back, and
I agree what was true.
that is possible that he
That
can.
You can have a little bit of aversion initially
Okay.
with the NG tube.
But he's
But he's
wouldn't.
still feeding. He told me he took a bottle this morning with the NG tube.
He did, but progressively he has taken less and less.
He's getting more full, right?
No, he's taking less mLs from the bottle.
Because he's getting more full over the course of the day, right? We're getting
Possibly,
more calories.
possibly, but we're still giving him the calories, and he's still not wanting to eat at times when he normally does.
So he's probably not going to feed every hour when he's getting his stomach
It-
full every
well.
3 hours, right? And it's normal for a baby to feed every 3 to 4 hours at this age.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Somewhere between 2 and 4 hours. And everyone's a little bit different. But it is not really like there are babies that feed every hour. Okay, that's true. But on average, kids his age will feed roughly every 2 to 3 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he might not be showing hunger cues every single hour is a change from what he was doing a week ago. But likely the reason for that is because a week ago he wasn't taking 2.5 ounces a week ago. Right? If you eat a really, really big dinner, you're not going to be hungry until breakfast. Whereas if you eat just snacks throughout the day, you're going to continuously be hungry throughout the day.
I just think that the changes that are happening to him are not changes that are beneficial to him. They're not helping him.
What changes?
Any of the changes that have been happening to him. Anything that
You mean the
anybody,
NG
not just specifically the NG tube,
What else?
specifically the rice cereal,
Let's
specifically.
talk about the submission. I can't talk about what's happened in the past.
But I'm telling you the things, and it's already in his workup. It's in his history. You know that these things happen. That another doctor prescribed this, and all of these things have not been beneficial to him, and most of these things have been detrimental to him.
Okay, so let's go back to the initial question. What do you want us to do?
Just what I said. We can increase his caloric intake.
We can increase the caloric intake how?
Well, how do you think? I mean, I'm not. That's not my department. That's not my department. But I believe that. Okay, we've had this. If I didn't have this same scenario with 3 other children,
Sure.
and me myself suffered from that when I was a child,
Sure.
then I would be very, in your shoes, worried.
Were
But-
your kids, all your other kids, lower than their birth weight at a month of age?
Yes,
Lower than their birth weight?
I was as well. But I'm fine today.
Do you have the records for those kids? I'm curious, because if that's true, it could be, like, honestly, like, I have not, that is not a normal
We've
thing.
been telling people that since day one. We've been telling people that since day one, and nobody listens. We've had this same exact thing, but none of only who had a tube. Did Sebastian have a tube?
No, none of them.
Okay, none of them. He's the only one that's had a tube. He's the only one that has had any of that go on. So, but just like all the other children,
Okay.
there's nothing medically wrong with him besides the fact that he's underweight.
That in our training, based on looking at hundreds of thousands of kids in the United States, it is concerning if a kid does not go back to birth weight by 2 weeks of age.
But he was in the NICU at 2 weeks of age.
Right.
And he still wasn't in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when you're sick, it's different, right? Because your body is using more energy to fight the infection.
Which he's just now getting over.
Right.
A sickness that may or may not have come from there, but
But kids outside of a NICU or outside of an acutely sick state should be gaining their birth weight back by 2 weeks of age. And I get very, very concerned if they don't.
okay.
And so if it's true that your other kids didn't gain their birth weight back by the time they were a month old,
Mm-hmm.
then you're right. It's possible that could have been their normal. It is extremely unusual for that to be the case, because that would be considered
Even though I've had that same problem.
So to not gain back to your birth weight by a month of age, yeah, that's unusual. That's extremely unusual. Okay?
Even though hereditarily they would have the same.
I would need to see the numbers, okay, to be perfectly honest, because it's very, very, very unusual, okay? But in any case, we can increase his calories in 2 different ways. We can increase the concentration of the formula, or we can increase the volumes. He's getting 150 kilocalories per kilogram, okay? And so 150 calories per kilogram of his weight. And normally, for his age, if he did not have to catch up growth, we would be doing somewhere close to between 100 to 120 kilogram
Right.
per kilogram. Okay. And so right now, the schedule that he's been ordered, which is 2.5 ounces every 3 hours, gets him to about 150.
Okay.
Okay. So I would not want to go down from 150 kilocalories
No.
per kilogram of his weight.
No.
Okay.
But obviously, increasing the volume is not going to help either, because then we're going to have to. Because then
I
we're
don't
going to
think
be
he can
back.
tolerate more
We're going to be back to that.
Yeah, I don't
So
think he can take more
yeah.
volume.
So
He's going to start throwing up, and that's not.
so
we don't wanna do
then
that.
the only option I think both of us can see is
So
to
we can
probably increase the concentration.
And in increasing his concentration, I would also recommend we decrease the volume at the same time. To
Okay.
get to the same total amount of calories,
Okay.
but maybe less of a volume altogether.
Okay.
Okay. This comes with pros and cons. Okay. A denser formula doesn't clear from your stomach as quickly because it's harder for your stomach to process.
Right. He's going to
things,
have harder. Yeah.
But it's going to be a lower volume.
Okay.
Okay. If he is just getting bloated from the volume, and maybe that's why he's not eating as much, that will help him because his stomach won't be physically as expanded as much.
Okay. So then he'll be able to absorb the amount of calories that he actually needs with less volume, essentially.
Potentially. Okay. And again, like all these things can be a little bit. The other downside potentially from increasing the concentration while decreasing the volume is that he'll get less water.
Oh, right. Then he could dehydrate.
And so I think that it'll be safe to do it, but based on the amount that he's on. For a night, it won't make a difference.
And he hasn't shown any signs of dehydration
but I would
or.
want nutrition to kind of weigh in the morning and just make sure that we're still giving him an adequate amount of water.
Okay.
Okay, because I don't want to cause another. That's going to.
Yeah.
The other thing is a more concentrated formula is more likely to cause constipation
Right.
because there's less water.
Less water, right?
Okay.
So his bowels are not going to.
And so it's possible that you could end up taking a step backwards in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah.
By doing that.
True that.
Okay.
Okay.
The other thing is the formula itself is thicker. Okay. Formula.
It's going to be a different. Yeah, it's going to be different for him.
It's going to be different for him. He's not going to feel it the same way.
Yeah.
It's a little bit thicker.
How much?
So,
How much of an increase are we talking about? How much is he going to?
He's at 25 right now. We can go up to like 27.
Maybe that won't be too much. I mean, I don't know what the difference is in
Not
the.
a huge amount. Probably about a teaspoon.
Okay.
I'm not going to pretend to know the math.
I got you,
I
yeah.
did this last time. That was way off.
Yeah.
So you're right. 25 to 27.
Volumetric equations are not your.
Yeah. But potentially enough for us to decrease the amount that he's getting per feed in volume, enough to make his stomach be a little less distended.
Okay.
Okay. My recommendation would be that we continue the feeds every 3 hours. Let him try to take it by mouth first.
Okay.
Let him try that for about 25 minutes.
All right.
And then after 25 minutes, whatever he doesn't take, to put the rest of the NG tube and keep the NG tube in place.
How much volume is he going to be? Are you with the increase in the calories? How much volume are you going to expect for him to
I don't see the
to
math.
consume?
So we want to give him 500 calories.
The what?
In here.
Huh? Like 3 days? This time?
This one.
Yeah.
In the NICU, right? He's in this NICU?
No, he was in the NICU in East Texas.
So that gets us to 18.5 ounces over the course of the day. Right now he's on 20 ounces over the course of the day.
Okay, so an ounce and a half
8
less.
feeds is 2.3. So we're going from 2.5 ounces to 2.3 ounces.
Okay, that's not much of a difference, but it's, I mean,
Yeah.
I suppose if he can get to the point where he will eat without having to rely on the tube.
And to be perfectly honest, that could be longer than 1 or 2 days. Okay.
Yeah, that's my concern. Now that he's starting to realize, hey, I got this tube back. I don't have to eat, because he sits
It
there.
doesn't work like that. Babies are smart, but not that smart.
I'm not saying that he's doing it like,
Right.
but his body his natural is telling him.
Because we would still allow him to feed, like.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but there's been other cases where this same exact thing has happened. There's been, the New York Times has reported on it. I mean,
You're correct.
this
It's not common. Okay.
it's not common,
You
but
see
it's
it in the news article because it's the one of.
Right, but it's-
in
but
the
it's-
in the medical literature. It's not common.
right. But that's also to bring light to something that
Absolutely,
happens,
very happens. I'm not
and
gonna deny that.
okay,
Yeah.
and also, maybe you don't see it in medical literature because it's not reported on.
We study this a lot.
Okay,
Weight
but
gain in babies is a really big deal for pediatrics.
But what would happen, for instance, what would happen in this case if, say, what we're doing now works, okay? Because it is I believe that it's an oral version caused by the initial tube and all these other things that have been going on in his life, plus the fact that I've watched 3 other babies go through the same thing, and I myself went through it as a baby, so I know that that's what it is, because of that. So when we say that, when we finally get to the point and that actually is what it is, then what would be the other course of action if we kept doing that and he did regress and chose not to eat orally, which your nurse already stated what the next step was going to be there, which was to force all of it through the tube on a machine, right? That was going to be the next step?
Sure.
Okay, so were we going to do him a favor there?
I don't think we're headed there.
But that was...
Is it possible? Yeah. Is it likely? No.
But what I'm saying is that would be the progression towards what, a permanent Mickey button?
Not necessarily. No.
I mean,
Can you tell him, like, an average, a baby that has an NG tube
Yeah.
like this, and how old is he?
he's a month roughly.
Yeah.
It
So,
is 5 weeks.
when he hits the marks that you need him to make, what's the average length of time, and then how long? I mean, they're feeding right after that, right? Do we do swallow studies, or what do we do to make
Yeah,
sure
so,
that they're
so
swallowing?
typically they don't need to swallow the study if there's no signs of like aspiration or something like that. The speech therapist can evaluate that clinically. You don't need to swallow a study.
So we have support people that'll help him get back to
Yeah.
bottle the breast, whatever else he's doing also.
And we would continue working with speech therapy, and it might not be intensive like 3 times a day or something, but speech therapy would still be involved with any baby that has like an NP2 for that precise purpose.
but
to make sure we're
what we're going to try to do is make sure that he takes as much as possible with the bottle.
Yeah.
That's what our course of action is going to be at this point in time.
Backup NG, right?
I mean,
Okay.
I mean, we kind of, I guess, don't have a choice about that right at the moment.
So, I mean, fundamentally, he needs to eat a certain number of calories in order to gain weight and not use too much energy while doing it.
Right.
Right? Like, calories in have to be more than calories out. Right?
Which he was actually doing really well with that, with the consuming of the volume, but he wasn't maybe getting the calories that he needed.
Right.
And but there again, all of those things are affected by